video is designed to give you an insight into the cost of living here in Palermo, Sicily. It's very different compared to other parts of Italy, and this is the first thing that I want to express. It's very difficult to do a general video about the cost of living in Italy on a whole, because essentially it depends on where you are. I did try a couple of years ago in this video right here to give you a bit of an indication as to the prices you can expect to pay in Italy, but it is very much region dependent. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about the cost of food here in Palermo. I'm going to give you a peek into my food cupboard. We're going to talk about the cost of accommodation. I'm going to compare two different parts of Palermo. And we're going to talk about gas, electricity, and a little bit of beauty and travel, all thrown into the mix. So let's get into the video, shall we? Okay, let's talk about accommodation. I chose two different parts of Palermo to compare and contrast, one being very close to the main city centre itself and the other being in the suburbs. And I compared two different rental properties to give you an idea of what you can get for your money here in Palermo. So let's take property number one. This beautiful penthouse apartment is situated on the third floor of the building. However, it is without a lift, which I know is a bit of a deal breaker for a lot of people. It is on a busy road, I'm not going to lie, above some shops. However, what you get for your money is incredible. So it's a 95-metre squared apartment. It comes with two roof terraces, one that leads directly from the kitchen and the other that is accessible via a separate staircase within the property. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, complete with a living room, a laundry room, kitchen. It's amazing. So this apartment actually comes with a fitted kitchen, albeit in a bit of an old-fashioned style, along with the bathrooms, but it is fitted, which is a rarity here in Italy. Certainly the home that I moved into did not come with a kitchen, so I can tell you firsthand that it's a rarity to find a property that's for rent with fitted facilities. So this all comes with a price tag of 800 euros per month, which is actually considered to be one of the top-end prices for rental properties here in Palermo. It's pretty amazing really, because I come from London where literally you could pay £800 if we were going to do like a direct equivalent for, oh my goodness, a studio, like literally one room if you're lucky. So to understand that you can get a complete apartment with two roof terraces is pretty darn amazing. And I would suggest that in Milan, you would not get a property like this at all. The cost of living in Milan is, in my opinion, the equivalent of the cost of living in London in terms of property prices. And I know people who live there who tell me how expensive properties are there. So I would suggest that, considering this is top-end price, you get a lot for your money. Okay, property number two is situated in a suburb, which is around 30 minutes walk from the main centre of Palermo itself, or around 10 to 15 minutes by car. Now, this is a really nice suburb. I was very particular. And this particular property, property number two, is a 120 metres squared property. So it's really big, and it comes with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a utility room, a living room, and 2 balconies. Now, this property is situated on the 7th floor and does have a lift, thankfully, but it all comes together to a lovely price tag of 600 euros per month. So this is what you can expect to pay if you choose to stay a little bit outside of the main centre of Palermo itself. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, you're going to have people that try their luck here with 1,000 euro plus properties to rent. A lot of times those properties are holiday lets, which are only ever going to be let out for a short period of time in low season or until the next set of guests arrive. And sometimes it's because the properties have been refurbished to a very high standard, but they are not the normal rents here in Palermo if you know where to go. I've already shown you property one, which was, as I said before, in a nice location, 5 minutes walk maximum from the town centre at 800 euros, and property number two that we've just looked at, which was in a suburb, 30 minutes walking distance from the main centre of Palermo itself, or around 10 to 15 minutes by car, at 600 euros. So you can see these are some general ballpark figures. There will always be exceptions to the rule, but essentially I would suggest that if you're paying upwards of 1,000 euros per month, either you have a little mansion on your hands or you are in a very, very, very prime location. So it pays to do your research, I would suggest. If you want to know some more about renting property, I highly recommend you watch this video here because I go into a bit more detail about extra costs that you have to pay attention to, and also what you can expect to go through if you choose to rent a property here in Italy. So watch that one next. So let's talk about food. The cost of eating here in Palermo, in my opinion, is fairly inexpensive. You can buy street food such as arancinas for as little as €1.60, or you can buy, for example, a panino, probably around €2.50, €3, depending on what you choose to put inside them. But essentially, the cost of street food here is really inexpensive. But what about groceries? What's it like to go shopping? So I'm going to show you a bit of a sneak peek into my food cupboard here in Palermo to give you an idea of the prices that you can expect to pay. About electricity. The cost of electricity has obviously skyrocketed in recent months, but to give you an idea of what I personally pay for electricity, now I want you to consider two things before I tell you this. Firstly, it very much depends on your property size and your individual consumption of electricity. Secondly, it also depends on the provider that you go with as to the rate you'll receive, as well as whether you are a resident or not. So you do have to bear those two factors in mind. But for myself, I pay between 80 to €100 every 2 months on electricity. Now consider, there's not a lot of our home that is powered by gas. So, we have lights, our normal electricity usage, the television, computers, charging phones, just normal everyday use, the coffee machine, of course. Nothing over the top, and that's what we pay, 80 to €100, and there's 2 of us, so it's not exactly a huge family. So of course you have to bear in mind those 2 considerations. It does depend on your family size. It also depends on your home as well. If you have a larger home, you can expect to pay more, of course, naturally. And it depends on the type of contract and provider that you have. Okay, let's talk about gas. I feel like I'm really unqualified to talk about gas because we're having a bit of a nightmare with our gas provider at the moment. But essentially, again, for all of the disclaimers that I gave with the electricity, it depends on your provider, it depends on your individual usage, it depends on how much of your home requires the supply of gas. In our home, for example, it's just the oven, the heating and the hot water, which, to be fair, we didn't really use the heating very much over winter. So we were paying on average around €40 a month for the gas. So of course prices are higher now compared to the past. It used to be that gas was lower and electricity has always been generally higher, but that's what you can expect to pay for gas and electricity. And that isn't just because I'm in Palermo. Like, the prices are pretty much the same all across Italy, but as I've mentioned before, it very much depends on family size, the size of your home, your consumption. It's very difficult to give a generalized example because it's just too individual to be able to do that. Let's talk about beauty. What do I get done? Well, I'm very simple in terms of my own beauty regime. I have my hair cut and coloured, but as you can see, it's one colour and it's kind of one length. And I pay €66 for a cut and colour. Now, this is considered to be more of a top-end price, but if you've watched my video up here, you will know that I've been on a bit of a hair journey here in Italy with many disasters to my name. So I'm very picky about where I go. I go to a very nice salon here in Palermo, and that is the price that I pay. It is possible for you to have cheaper cuts elsewhere at other salons, but it's personal preference. I'm just more picky because I've had some really bad experiences here, but €66 is what I pay for my cut and colour. Okay, let's talk about nails. So I get my nails done, gel nails, for €20 per month, but that is simply because I know the person who does them. But generally speaking, beauty treatments here are really inexpensive. Like, it's normal to pay like 20, €25, €30 to get your nails done. And I used to pay so much more than that in the UK. So I would suggest that beauty treatments here are a lot less than in other parts of Italy especially. And it always depends on where you go to. You can definitely go to some more expensive places here in Palermo if you want to. So you just have to do your individual research. Okay, when it comes to trains, the cost really does depend on where you're traveling to. They're pretty much nationally priced, so it's not really dependent on your region as to how much you'll pay. To give you an example though, from Palermo to Cefalù, which is around a 45-50 minute train journey, a single ticket costs €6.80. So that's what you can expect to pay for a journey of that distance from Palermo train station to Cefalù. So let's talk about bus tickets. If you decide to take the bus around Palermo, you would be using a company called Amat, who issue the tickets. You can buy the tickets from any newsagents or kiosk, generally speaking, for €1.40 per ticket. This ticket has a validity of 90 minutes from the moment you validate it on board, which, if you don't know already, this is an essential requirement. If you don't validate your ticket on board using the onboard machine, then unfortunately, if a ticket inspector comes on and checks your ticket, you are liable for a fine. If you decide to buy your ticket on board the bus, you do pay a little bit more, €1.80. Again, always valid for 90 minutes from the point of validation. Now, if you decide to buy a monthly ticket, for example, which covers in Palermo all of the bus routes and tram lines, it costs you €32 for the month. In my personal opinion, I actually think public transport here is really well priced. Compared to London, where a 15-minute train journey, for example, costs, oh my goodness, nearly £10, I would really recommend that you make the most of the public transport here. It's not fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely, in my opinion, well priced.